a lot going on when it comes to kingmakers. Now, we talked about George Soros. We know he's one of the biggest ones in history. But there's another one that you might not have heard about that plays big-time kingmaker when it comes to Israel-U.S. relations. And this is the family I mentioned that I've been looking into the Adelson family, and I said I would have something coming up. This was a few weeks back, and I did some looking around, did some digging, and I think I found what I needed to find in order to bring you guys what's going on here. And I think this is a big player when it comes to how Trump won over the church. And it's not specifically because they were doing campaigns designed specifically for the church, but there's certain moves that were made that played very well when it came to the church. And I think you'll see why when we get there. So let's take a look. Miriam Adelson, who is the Israeli billionaire backing Trump. She has become a kingmaker in U.S. Republican politics while also backing right-wing politics in Israel. This is for the past decade. Miriam Adelson has ascended in Republican circles in the U.S. and in the political scene in Israel, where she grew up. The Israeli-American billionaire and casino owner has become a kingmaker in conservative American politics, following in the footsteps of her late husband, Sheldon Adelson, who died in 2021. Her $100 million donation to President-elect Donald Trump's campaign in 2024 was a watershed moment. With Trump's victory, many eyes are on Miriam and her possible influence in his future policy decisions, most notably on Israel. Trump is on record vowing to end Israel's war on Gaza and Lebanon. At the same time, he began changing his critical rhetoric of the war after receiving the whopping campaign boost from Miriam, and several of Trump's nominees have links to the Adelson family. This is, however, many reports have said that she played a pivotal and influential role in developing the couple's political trajectory over the past decade. That's regarding her and her husband, Sheldon. Now, who is this chick? Miriam married billionaire Sheldon, a casino magnate, in 1991. Decades later, he would become one of Trump's most prominent financial backers. The couple emerged in the 2010s among the top Republican mega donors, spending $500 million on Republican candidates in congressional, Senate, and presidential elections. Their massive political spending sprees turned the couples into kingmakers. After her husband died in 2021, Miriam took over his business interests and political outlook, looking to shape her vision of U.S. politics and the state of Israel. This couple here made mega money through a chain of casinos, which is fascinating because you'll know that Trump also came from the casino region as well, where he has a whole host of issues of getting bailed out and going through legal lawsuits regarding his money laundering schemes through casinos and stuff like that. So if you've done any history, we've talked about that stuff in the past, but they kind of come from the same background when it comes to that. This family is also notorious because Miriam's background when it comes to being Jewish also led Sheldon to start supporting people and influencing people in order to start maneuvering U.S. Israeli politics around the board. These are one of the main families that you don't necessarily hear about that starts causing influence and telling these politicians and political leaders to start moving things around the board. One of the big ones we'll talk about in just a second was, I believe, the main one, which is why the church went with Trump. So it says the Adelsons were among Trump's biggest supporters in his 2016 presidential bid, though they were not the first donors to back Trump's cause. They did not support Trump during the Republican primary, which we'll talk about in just a second. And Sheldon leaned towards Marco Rubio, who was a Florida senator at the time. Miriam favored Senator Ted Cruz. Interesting, because Marco Rubio, who Trump clearly did not like in his first administration, added him as Secretary of State this time. Trump even hit out at the Adelsons, accusing them of trying to buy Rubio. And you can see this was from October 13th, 2015 by Trump. He says Sheldon Adelson is looking to give big dollars to Rubio because he feels he can mold him into the perfect little puppet. I agree. And guess what? Trump is now their puppet, is now Miriam Adelson's puppet now. However, the Adelsons met with Trump in December 2015, and the core of the conversation was Israel. Miriam said that she found Trump to be very charming. Okay. They also donated $5 million to Trump for his inauguration festivities and gave $500,000 to Trump legal defense while he was being investigated regarding alleged Russian interference in the 2016 election. And as we know, Trump is connected to both the Russian mob and the Kremlin, so no surprise there. That support yielded significant results as Trump moved the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which the Adelsons had been pushing American presidents to do for over a decade. Remember, that was the big thing during the 2024 campaign of the churches and the pastors and stuff. Remember, Trump is the one that recognized Jerusalem as the capital and moved the embassy there. Why did he do it? Boom. The Adelson family. Because of their money and their political influence. Miriam and her husband were influential in Trump's decision to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and reports emerged in May that she was conditioning her support for the former president on allowing Israel to annex the occupied West Bank officially. Now that plays a big part too with what we've been seeing recently as well. Now, he went and had an interview with Israel Hayom, which they own. It's an Israeli newspaper. And in that interview, Trump said Israel should finish up its war on Gaza, saying that it's losing international credibility. Trump's words came in direct contrast to Miriam, who wrote in a column for Israel Hayom that if you thunder at the tactics of Israel's counteroffensive, you're dead to us. After the donation of $100 million, Trump began attacking the Biden administration and Democrats, saying that they were working to hinder Israel's war efforts. Changed on a dime. Because he was the one that was in alignment with Biden when it comes to ending the war, but as soon as he received $100 million from Adelson, who said, if you disagree with what we're saying, then you're dead to us, he changed in an instant. During the presidential debate with Vice President Kamala Harris in September, Trump said Harris hates Israel. Many of Trump's nominees for key administration roles have also have been nods to Miriam. Trump's choice for U.S. ambassador to Israel is Mike Huckabee. Huckabee was given the Adelson Defender of Israel Award at a dinner hosted by the Zionist Organization of America. Trump's pick for the UN ambassador to the UN, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, is also received the same award from Miriam in March of this year. Trump also tapped former Senator Rubio as his Secretary of State, the same man that in 2015 he referred to as a puppet for Sheldon Adelson, but was indeed supported by Sheldon Adelson. Oh, we got another one going on. Rubbish. Truth hurts. The truth hurts. We're not here to coddle. I'm not here to give you sugar and avoid certain subjects and topics and stuff like that. This type of maneuvering and puppeteering and king-making goes not only on the left side, but also the right. And it's something that people really, and I can't stress this enough, really need to wake up on. Because I can't begin to tell you, yes, we support God's chosen people in his land. We do here. We support them. But that does not mean that we support the political Zionist group that's connected to it, which I'm not going to get into details about. I have a video on my channel if you want to learn about, which I believe plays a part when it comes to who the true Jews are and who the fake Jews are, when it comes to the Edomites and when it comes to the actual Jewish people, when it comes to the synagogue of Satan, which I believe are the fake Jews. And so we need to be able to separate those two. But the problem that I have noticed is for the churches who do support Israel, they can't seem to separate those things. And again, they hold Israel up, all of Israel, including the bad portion of it, the political Zionist movement, hold them up as an idol. Meanwhile, you have the other side who outright rejects Israel and wants to see him die and get wiped off the face of the earth, because it's a tale of two extremes. And we're not here to play favorites. We're not here to play sides. We're not here to play extremes. We're here to find out what's really going on. And that includes hearing some of the hard stuff that's happening in regards to this. So I truly hope that people who are listening who disagree with literally the facts of what I'm presenting, you can find evidence of all this. That's why I'm talking about it. Will actually wake up and place the idol of Israel aside and start to see what's really going on between the deception. Again, this is the deception. You can't lump them all together, but there's clearly a set of fake Jews that are clearly involved with all the globalist stuff that's going on right now. And we got to make sure that we can see through that veil and see truly what's going on between this stuff. And that includes talking about things like this. So here's her Forbes profile, Miriam Adelson and family. They're the 42nd richest family in the world. They're worth $40.8 billion with a B. And Miriam Adelson is the widow of Sheldon Adelson, the former CEO and chairman of casino company Las Vegas Sands, who died at 87 in 2021. She and her family now own more than half of the New York Stock Exchange listed gambling empire. They literally own half of the page on the New York Stock Exchange when it comes to the gambling scene, which has casinos in Singapore and Macau. In 2022, Las Vegas Sands sold its assets on the Vegas Strip, the Venetian Resort, and the Sands Expo and Convention Center to Apollo Global and VC Properties for $6.25 billion. She also bought the majority stake in the Dallas Mavericks NBA team from Mark Cuban in late 2023. Long known as a GOP megadonor alongside Sheldon after his death, Adelson is a top backer of Trump. Born in Israel, Adelson became a medical doctor focusing on addiction. Pretty interesting. She's a doctor that focuses on addiction but owns casinos, which has one of the biggest gambling addiction things involved with it. Interesting. Let's keep going. This is where things start opening up. Hang with me, guys. I know. Hang with me. This is the pro-Israel donor with $100 million plan to elect Trump. Now, again, for the person who said that this is all rubbish, I want to tell you that this report that we're about to read was literally printed in the Las Vegas Journal, which is owned by the Adelson family. So keep that in mind. This is printed in the same journal that they own. As the Nevada caucuses drew to a close in February, this was back in 2024. As the Nevada caucuses drew to a close in February, Donald J. Trump and several top aides gathered for a quick dinner in a suite atop his hotel in Las Vegas before he descended and declared victory. But the Republican billionaire at the center of attention during the meal was not Mr. Trump. It was Miriam Adelson. She said she would not donate to him while Nikki Haley, his last rival standing and a friend of hers, remained in the race, according to two people briefed on the meeting who insisted on being anonymous to describe the private gathering. So basically, she was friends with Nikki Haley and said, I will not support you while she's still running. And look at what happened. Boom, she stepped down. And all of a sudden, the checkbook comes out for Trump. But once the primary was over, she gave Trump a renewed assurance that the famous Adelson geyser of cash, which had shot out hundreds of millions of dollars over more than a decade, would erupt again. Fiercely hawkish on Israel, she was deeply unnerved by the Hamas attack on October 7th and would be likely to shape a second Trump administration's posture on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Also interesting, I want to throw this out there. I don't know if people have been paying attention, but they had a meeting. The Israeli government had a meeting where Netanyahu was present, and multiple people publicly called out Netanyahu. We talked about this when it first happened, and I got called an idiot and a moron and an anti-Semite and attacked by the church and the prophecy community for doing so. But multiple people in the Israeli government, where Netanyahu was sitting there, publicly confronted him during their speaking time, telling him that he was aware and allowed October 7th Hamas attack to happen so he could take over Gaza. Another guy actually even called him out and said, "You were the one that was funding Hamas through Qatar to make this happen as well," which was another aspect that we talked about that I was almost crucified for even presenting the idea of. Anyways, let's keep moving. It's not what we're here for, but it mentioned October 7th, and I wanted to bring that up because that just happened today. So basically, she's going to be involved with shaping Trump's administrative posture when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It says her fervor for Mr. Trump, some of his allies say, actually exceeds her late husband. At one point, she suggested adding a book of Trump to the Bible. The Adelson's bond with him was etched in stone when his administration moved the United States Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv. They sat in the front row of the opening ceremony and would later pay $88 million for the Mediterranean villa in Herzliya, where the ambassador had lived before the embassy move, which helped ensure that a future administration could not easily move it back. When she and her husband implored Mr. Trump again to move the embassy. So they played a major part in Trump getting them to move the embassy. But Shmuley Botek, a rabbi and a longtime friend of the Adelsons, said that he believed Dr. Adelson supported the annexation and considered so-called land for peace deals to actually be land for war. This had to do with going against a two-state solution. And this is coming from a rabbi. And it says she and her husband enjoyed an extraordinarily close relationship with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, who even prevailed upon them to start their own newspaper, Israel Hayom, which enthusiastically promoted his administration. But recently, the relationship between her and Netanyahu is now pretty much non-existent. So that's worth noting as well. We'll get to a little bit more of that in a second. It says in 2016, as in 2024, the Adelsons engaged only in the general election, even though Mr. Trump was hardly their first choice. Adelson was partial to Ted Cruz, and Mr. Adelson to Marco Rubio. Mr. Botek introduced the Adelsons to Jared Kushner, Mr. Trump's son-in-law, and eventually the couple sat down with Trump himself late in 2015. So the rabbi introduced the Adelsons to Kushner, who we know how he's been playing when it comes to what's going on in the Middle East. And it's through Kushner that they finally got to meet Trump in late of 2015. Mr. Adelson found him very charming, and over the next year, the couple would press him and Mr. Kushner about relocating the embassy. Dr. Adelson was familiar with disappointment, though, Mr. Botek recalled, including when George W. Bush failed to follow through on his promised embassy move. But Mr. Trump made good on his promise and went on to award Dr. Adelson the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. By 2020, the Adelsons were full-blown Trump believers, putting upward of $90 million into a pro-Trump super PAC. Still, Mr. Trump stayed close. He and Dr. Adelson met for half a dozen dinners across the country in 2023 and 2024 that stretched as long as 3 hours talking about Israel and their families. Around the time they broke bread at Mar-a-Lago in mid-March, Dr. Adelson told a confidant, Mort Klein, the president of the Adelson-funded Zionist Organization of America, that she was planning on making a very generous gift to Mr. Trump's re-election effort, Mr. Klein recalled, which we know was that $100 million that she dropped. Now, Mort Klein, interesting fellow, Just a couple things about him. Morton A. Klein. He is the president of the Zionist Organization of America. He was an economist for Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, and Jimmy Carter. His father was a Satmar Hasid ultra-Orthodox rabbi, the same group that just supported Mamdani in New York. Just throwing that out there. He is a longtime confidant to Miriam Adelson and contributed to persuading Trump to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Worth noting on that. Now, oh boy, hold on. This website just got messed up because Jerusalem Post likes to refresh their website all the time. Check out this headline. Dr. Miriam Adelson, the modern-day Rothschild Israelis have finally recognized. Miriam Adelson has been building the Jewish future for decades. Israel is only now starting to realize it. She and her husband, Sheldon, were viewed as kingmakers, puppeteers, or just another set of billionaires trying to shape Israeli politics in their image. Their immense wealth, their influence over both Israel and the U.S., and perhaps most of all, their endless support of Netanyahu made them divisive figures. Israelis, especially Israeli media, are finally waking up to the reality that should have been obvious all along. Miriam Adelson is the most significant donor to the Jewish world and to Israel in our era. She is, in no certain terms, the Rothschild of today. In recent months, she has thrown her weight behind one issue, the release of the Israeli hostages from Gaza. This is from this year, by the way. And unlike many who pay lip service, she's actually making things happen. In the past few weeks, one name that keeps coming up as a significant force in pressuring the release of the hostages and influencing U.S. President Donald Trump's stance, billionaire Miriam Adelson, or Miri, as those close to her call her. Adelson has personally met with the hostage families, ensuring that they have access to the most influential people in Washington and pressuring Trump to act. She is one of the biggest donors to the president and has worked behind the scenes to ensure Trump is fully committed to the mission. It turns out that when you have Miriam Adelson's resources and access, you don't just influence policy, you rewrite it. For years, the Adelsons were synonymous with Netanyahu's political survival. Their media empire, particularly Israel Hayom, was widely seen as a personal PR machine for him. That changed when Netanyahu was caught negotiating with Yedioth Aronoth publisher Noni Moses about limiting Israel Hayom's reach in exchange for favorable coverage. The betrayal cut deep. That's where the whole shift in their relationship happened. Instead, in 2006, he first entered, this is talking about Sheldon, by the way. 2006, he first entered the market by acquiring 50% of the Free Daily Israel. I hate Jerusalem Post because they always refresh the page right when I'm trying to read something. Sorry. Okay, in 2016, Sheldon Adelson first entered the market by acquiring 50% of the Free Daily Israeli, but after disagreements with the co-owner Shlomo Ben Ziv, he launched Israel Hayom in 2007. In 2014, he expanded his media influence by purchasing Mekor Rishon and then Merev News site NRG, further solidifying his impact on Israeli journalism. Again, got to take over the media, and they had multiple media outlets that they controlled. That's on top of Hayom and the Las Vegas Journal and so on and so forth. It says, for years, Miriam has been seen as a benefactor with an agenda. Now she is understood for what she truly is, the single most influential Jewish philanthropist in the world, someone who does more than write checks. She moves history. Miriam Adelson has been building the Jewish future for decades. Israel's only now starting to realize it. Says I'm frozen. Shouldn't it be frozen? You guys good? Okay. What all did you guys miss? What all did you guys miss? I want to make sure that I don't skip anything. All right. Did it skip anything? I don't want to skip anything. How, Nancy West, how would we know? You let me know when it froze what I was talking about, so I don't. Oh, man. I hate it when it refreshes. Wow, that was a while ago. Okay, thank you for that. All right, hate it when it refreshes. So we'll get back to where it was. I'll just repeat what I said. So, in 2006, Sheldon Adelson first entered the market by acquiring 50% of the Free Israeli, but after disagreements with co-owner Shlomo Ben Ziv, he launched Israel Hayom in 2007. In 2014, he expanded his media influences by purchasing Mekor Rishon and the then Mariv news site NRG, further solidifying his impact on Israeli journalism. And if we jump down, it says, for years, Miriam was seen as a benefactor with an agenda. Now she's understood for what she truly is, the single most influential Jewish philanthropist in the world, someone who does more than write checks. She moves history. Miriam Adelson has been building the Jewish future for decades. Israel is only now starting to realize it. So, of course, not only are they moving around in Israel politics and United States politics, but they own a media empire on top of their Compedia, on top of their, casino empire. And they make their money through those ways, and they're able to influence society through media, and they're able to influence politics through their connections to both the Israeli and United States governments. We also have this. Miriam Adelson donates $100 million to the Trump campaign. If we jump down, it says Miriam Adelson has delivered on a pledge she reportedly made at the start of the general election season, donating $100 million to a campaign committee supporting the candidacy of Donald Trump, according to the disclosures filed Tuesday. Of course, this was last year that this was going on. Major funder of pro-Israel politics and prolific donor to Jewish causes, Adelson, 79, is carrying on a legacy she built with her late husband, casino magnate Sheldon Adelson. The Adelson family has long been one of the largest sources of campaign money for Republican candidates and has backed Trump during each of the three general elections. Worth noting that between 2012 and 2018, and I can only say 2018 because I don't have the statistics adding anything later, but between 2012 and 2018, the Adelson family was the number one financial contributor to the Republican Party. Think about that for a second. From 2012 to 2018, the Adelson family, these two were the number one contributor to the Republican Party. I wish I had the stats for 18 till now, but I don't. But something tells me that they're probably up in the top three spots. It says if Trump wins, Adelson could once again be instrumental in shaping American policy in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Miriam Adelson and her husband were influential in Trump's monumental direction to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel. So we're getting how many reports now that it was them who told Trump to do it? Because they said, if you want that $100 million, you need to move it. Direction to move the U.S. Embassy to Israel from Tel Aviv to the country's contested capital city of Jerusalem in 2017. Now we start getting into a little bit of this stuff too. We're almost done, guys. Hang with me. I know it's a lot of stuff, but hang with me. Trump pardons Israeli Colonel Aviam Sela, who recruited spy Jonathan Pollard. Just hours before leaving office, President Donald Trump on Wednesday granted a full pardon to Aviam Sela, 75, the handler of convicted Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard. Yes, so this was back during his first term. And basically what's going on is this Israeli dude brought in a Navy guy to just collect boxes and boxes of intel regarding United States national security, military objectives, CIA operations, all this stuff. And he took it to the Israeli government. That's what this is going on. So Jonathan Pollard was the one who was brought in recruited by Aviam Sella to become an Israeli spy with United States intelligence. Donald Trump granted full pardon to Aviam Sella, 75 Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard's former handler. White House said Sella's request for clemency received backing from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Sella, a retired Israeli Air Force colonel, enlisted Pollard to spy for Israel and fled the United States after Pollard was arrested in 1985. Sella was later indicted by a federal grand jury espionage charges, carrying a life sentence, but was never extradited to the United States. Pollard spent 30 years in a U.S. prison and was released in 2015. He immigrated to Israel afterwards. Sella was one of 73 pardons issued by Trump during his final hours in office. It says in one of his final acts as president, Donald Trump on Wednesday granted a full pardon to Aviam Sella, the recruiter of convicted spy Jonathan Pollard, as a part of a wave of clemency actions. Pollard, a former Navy intelligence analyst, sold military secrets to Israel while working at the Pentagon in 1980. During the 1980s. Sella, 75, a retired Israeli Air Force colonel, enlisted Pollard to spy for Israel and fled the United States after Pollard was arrested in 1985. Sella was indicted in absentia by a federal grand jury in 1987 on 3 counts of espionage, carrying a life sentence, but was never extradited to the U.S. from Israel. Why am I bringing this up? Why is this important? The White House said in a statement that Sella's request for clemency received backing from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli ambassador in Washington, the American ambassador to Israel, and Miriam Adelson, the widow of Republican mega donor and Trump supporter Sheldon Adelson, who died, last week, but died in 2021. Miriam Adelson was involved with this as well. And not only that, but she gave her private plane to take him back, to pick him up. Speaking of her private plane, Jewish philanthropist loaned her private plane to Mike Pence. Miriam Adelson loaned Mike Pence a plane for campaign-style tour of Israel. Miriam Adelson, the widow of casino magnate Sheldon Adelson and Republican Kingmaker in her own right, loaned former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence a plane this week, affording him the kind of photo ops that presidential contenders cherish. Accompanying Pence was Matt Brooks, the Republican Jewish Coalition executive director, who was close to Adelson. In addition to meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett and President Isaac Herzog, Pence sat down with an interview with the Adelson-owned daily Israel Hayom, in which he pledged to scrap any nuclear deal with Iran that Biden brokers. Then we, of course, know this list of donors paying for Trump's new ballroom, the Adelson Family Foundation. That is them. They're paying for the ballroom as well. And then we also have this. Texas Democrat slams mega donors, cashes check from casino billionaire. James Tallarico's largest donation in 2024 came from Texas Sands, run by billionaire Miriam Adelson. I haven't talked about this dude in 2 years. I looked up the last time I talked about him. It was 2023, because he's the dude who's like a Presbyterian pastor who teaches Gnosticism in his church. He talks about how the Bible supports abortion and that God's true name is Sophia, and that's where he gets his wisdom from. And of course, we know that's where all the Gnosticism and stuff comes from. So I talked about that in 2023. But he's taking money from the Adelsons as well. Texas State Representative James Tallarico, a Democrat known for railing against billionaire influencers in politics, is facing accusations of hypocrisy after Politico revealed that he accepted $59,000 from a PAC backed by mega donor Miriam Adelson. Texas Sand PAC, the Texas-based political arm of the casino giant, has more than $9 million in cash on hand heading into the upcoming election season. That money comes almost entirely from Miriam Adelson. In 2023, Tallarico voted for the constitutional amendment that would have allowed Texans to vote on government monopoly casino legalization. She owns casinos. She donates to his PAC, saying, if you want this money, then you need to make sure that we can get casinos in Texas. Deals being made. The $59,000 contribution was the largest he received last year. Tallarico is rumored to be considered a bid for U.S. Senate, which he just announced in October. Almost done. Just a couple more things. So we talked about how she called for a book of Trump in the Bible. It says the U.S.-Israel ties are at their strongest ever, and Dr. Miriam Adelson, publisher of the Israel Hayom Daily, penned an article crediting President Donald Trump for the feat. Adelson, who was in Israel this week for the Israel Hayom Forum on U.S. relations held in Jerusalem, talked about, in nuptial terms, our countries celebrated their golden anniversary more than 20 years ago, she continues. We are now at a platinum, a miracle of preciousness, radiance, and endurance. And the man who most deserves credit for this is President Donald Trump. Scholars of the Bible will no doubt note that the heroes, sages, and prophets of antiquity who were similarly spurned by the very people they came to raise up, she said, would it be too much to pray for a day that the Bible gets a book of Trump, much like it has the book of Esther, celebrating the deliverance of the Jews from ancient Persia. Then there's this. Trump talking about giving the Medal of Freedom Presidential Medal of Freedom to Miriam Adelson, basically saying that medal means more than when a injured or fallen soldier received the Medal of Honor. I kid you not.
I have to say, Miriam, I watched Sheldon sitting so proud in the White House when we gave Miriam the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's the highest award you can get as a civilian. It's the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor, but civilian version. It's actually much better because everyone gets the Congressional Medal of Honor. That's soldiers. They're either in very bad shape because they've been hit so many times by bullets or they're dead. She gets it, and she's a healthy, beautiful woman. It's very... And they're rated equal.
Interesting. Very interesting. And just a few things to wrap this up. Sheldon Adelson owned Las Vegas Review-Journal endorses Marco Rubio. Just confirming the reports on that. Here's the tweet. I collected this one from 2015. Sheldon Adelson is looking to give big dollars to Rubio because he feels he can mold him into the perfect little puppet. I agree. No, and now we know that Donald Trump is a puppet to Miriam Adelson. We have this. Sheldon Adelson gave Trump and Republicans over $424 million since 2016. We have that. And just to finalize everything, there's basically everything that we went over served up into this. Who is Miriam Adelson? She's an Ashkenazi Jew, Israeli American, served in the IDF. She's publisher of the Israel Hayom News and owner of Las Vegas Review-Journal. She met Trump through the rabbi and Kushner. She's the third largest donor to Trump's 2024 election influence in the West, in order to bring influence to West Bank support. She's the third largest. She's up there with Elon Musk and, of course, Timothy Mellon, which we talked about. Timothy Mellon, connected to the banking family, and his father was connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Sheldon and Miriam Adelson pushed Trump to move the embassy to Jerusalem. She donated to the Patriot Legal Expense Fund Trust to fight Trump-Russia probe. She's a financial supporter of the Zionist Organization of America. Her father was a prominent member of the Labor and Marxist Mapam political party. She's a member of Rockefeller University, member of the Board of Trustees at the University of Southern California. She calls for the Book of Trump to be added to the Bible. She was given the 2018 Presidential Medal of Freedom by Trump. And Sheldon groomed and funded Marco Rubio, and Miriam later endorsed him for 2025 Secretary of State. So, with all of that, does anybody think that there's no puppeteering going on behind the scenes regarding Trump and the U.S.-Israeli connection? I know where I stand, but that's a decision that you're going to have to figure out on your own. I can't answer that one for you. Because again, like we discovered earlier on, there's somebody who was in the chat that clearly no amount of facts or evidence or critical thinking or logic was going to change their mind. They were dead set in stone that anything that would reveal anything regarding Trump and the Israeli government or anything like that clearly doesn't exist in their mind, because they want to live in a world that's been crafted and formed in order to fit around their beliefs and their biases, as opposed to going with what is reality. But the fact is we talked about how there are clearly kingmakers like George Soros and what he did with Mamdani, and there are clearly kingmakers on the other side like Miriam Adelson and the Adelson family, who have clearly been directing Trump and his push with the whole Israeli situation over there.